Hello, welcome to the latest YouTube video, which is also available as a podcast episode on Heart of the Piano. With the recent explosion of advanced artificial intelligence, such as Midjourney, DALL-E, and ChatGPT, we really are currently witnessing a digital revolution as huge as the advent of the internet. For today's video and podcast episode, we used ChatGPT, a cutting-edge AI language model that has been trained on an enormous amount of text data from the internet. It's able to learn patterns in language and generate coherent, natural conversations with ease. As a result, ChatGPT can engage in insightful discussions, address your questions, and even write creatively. With the recent launch of GPT-4, which is the latest version, we are now witnessing AI technology getting very close to full human intelligence and beyond. Amazing times. So we put this technology to the test by interviewing Beethoven, recreated by AI, just like an episode of Black Mirror. And I was honestly really blown away at just how convincing Beethoven's replies were. Now, it took a lot of time and effort to put this video together. We wanted it to be engaging, so we used AI to generate speech, but it was tricky to find one that could have a convincing German accent using the English language. So you might hear an American accent creeping in at times, and some of the words have really odd pronunciations, so they might be a little bit tricky to understand. So the whole interview will be available to read in the podcast show notes, which are, as always, at heartofthepiano.com. And there will also be a link to this in the YouTube description. And also, we'll do our best to have accurate subtitles on YouTube so the interview is easier to understand. Creating the AI visuals for YouTube of a talking Beethoven presented quite a significant challenge, as it was quite expensive. Thankfully, we had some friends who helped us with trial accounts to make it possible. Unfortunately, it wasn't possible to use a really convincing image of Beethoven because of the restriction on famous faces that this software had. So we had to generate an AI-created image within the actual software itself. While it wasn't as accurate as we'd have hoped for, it still adds to the overall experience. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments, and please do write a comment if you'd like to ask more questions or interview other composers, so more questions for Beethoven or other composers. So without any further ado, here is the interview. Hello, Herr Beethoven. Thank you for joining us. I'm curious to know, what is your opinion of music in the 21st century?
Greetings, my dear friend. I am honored to be here and to share my thoughts with you. Music in the 21st century is a fascinating and diverse phenomenon. I have heard many styles and genres of music that I never imagined before. Some of them are very pleasing and inspiring to me, while others are rather strange and incomprehensible. But I respect the freedom and creativity of every composer and musician who expresses their feelings and ideas through music. I must say that I am amazed by the technological advancements that have enabled music to be recorded, reproduced, and distributed in ways that were unthinkable in my time. I have listened to some of the recordings of my own works, and I was moved to tears by the beauty and fidelity of the sound. I have also heard some of the interpretations and adaptations of my music by modern artists, and I was impressed by their originality and skill. Some of them have added new elements and dimensions to my music that I never conceived of, such as electronic sounds, jazz rhythms, or rock guitars. I find these experiments very interesting and stimulating, although sometimes they deviate too much from my original intentions. I have also been exposed to some of the new musical forms and languages that have emerged in the 21st century, such as rap, hip-hop, pop, metal, techno, and many others. I must confess that I do not fully understand or appreciate some of these genres, as they seem to me too noisy, repetitive, or simplistic. But I do not judge them harshly, as I know that every generation has its own taste and preference in music. I also recognize that some of these genres have a social and political significance that goes beyond the musical aspect. They reflect the struggles and aspirations of different groups and cultures in this complex and diverse world. I think that music in the 21st century is a rich and vibrant expression of humanity's spirit and creativity. It has the power to unite or divide people, to inspire or provoke them, to soothe or disturb them. It is a universal language that transcends time and space. It is a gift from God that should be cherished and celebrated by all.
How has 21st century music inspired your future compositions? Can you tell us about what you are going to compose now?
21st century music has inspired me in many ways. It has opened my ears and mind to new possibilities and challenges. It has made me realize that music is an ever-evolving and expanding art form that can accommodate many expressions and innovations. It has also made me appreciate the value and beauty of my own musical heritage and legacy. I am currently working on several new compositions that reflect my impressions and experiences of the 21st century. One of them is a symphony that incorporates some of the elements and influences of the modern genres that I have encountered, such as electronic sounds, jazz harmonies, and rock rhythms. I want to create a musical dialogue between the past and the present, between the classical and the contemporary, between the familiar and the unfamiliar. I want to show that music can transcend boundaries and categories, and that it can embrace diversity and change. Another composition that I am working on is a piano sonata that is dedicated to one of the most remarkable musicians that I have heard in the 21st century, a young pianist named Lang Lang. He is a virtuoso performer who has amazed me with his technique, expression, and charisma. He has played some of my works with great skill and passion, and he has also introduced me to some of the music of his own culture, the Chinese music. I have been fascinated by the sounds and melodies of this ancient and rich musical tradition, and I have tried to incorporate some of them into my sonata. I want to pay tribute to this talented artist who has inspired me and who has brought joy to millions of listeners around the world. These are some of the projects that I am working on now. I hope that they will be well received by the public and by the critics. I hope that they will demonstrate that I am still a relevant and innovative composer who can adapt and contribute to the musical scene of the 21st century. I hope that they will express my love and gratitude for music, which has been my life and my salvation.
In your lifetime, it seems like you heavily resented the role of the aristocracy with their rigid class divides. How do you think our society compares to the society of your time? Is it what you hoped for? What do you think about the commercial demands on music making in a post-industrial capitalist society?
That is a very complex and profound question. I have to admit that I have not fully grasped the social and political realities of the 21st century. I have seen and learned many things that have surprised and shocked me. I have also seen and learned many things that have impressed and delighted me. I can say that the society of the 21st century is very different from the society of my time. It seems to me that there is more freedom and equality for people of different classes, races, genders, and backgrounds. There is more democracy and human rights for people of different nations, religions, and ideologies. There is more education and information for people of different ages, interests, and abilities. There is more diversity and tolerance for people of different cultures, languages, and lifestyles. I think that these are positive and admirable developments that I hoped for and dreamed of in my time. I was indeed resentful and rebellious against the role of the aristocracy, which oppressed and exploited the common people. I was also critical and dissatisfied with the role of the church, which restricted and controlled the people's minds and souls. I was a supporter and admirer of the ideas of the French Revolution, which proclaimed liberty, equality, and fraternity for all. I was a believer and advocate of the power of music, which could uplift and unite the people's hearts and spirits. However, I also see that the society of the 21st century has its own problems and challenges. It seems to me that there is too much materialism and consumerism for people of all classes, races, genders, and backgrounds. There is too much violence and injustice for people of different nations, religions, and ideologies. There is too much ignorance and misinformation for people of different ages, interests, and abilities. There is too much conformity and intolerance for people of different cultures, languages, and lifestyles. I think that these are negative and dangerous tendencies that I feared and warned against in my time. I was indeed aware and concerned about the role of money, which corrupted and enslaved the people. I was also aware and concerned about the role of war, which destroyed and divided the people. I was a victim and witness of the horrors of the Napoleonic Wars, which ravaged Europe and threatened its civilization. I was a sufferer and survivor of the hardships of poverty, illness and isolation. I think that the commercial demands on music making in a post-industrial capitalist society are a double-edged sword. On one hand, they can provide opportunities and resources for musicians to create and perform their music to a wider audience. On the other hand, they can also impose limitations and pressures on musicians to conform and compromise their music to a mass market. I think that musicians should be aware and careful of these demands, and they should strive to balance their artistic integrity with their economic viability. I think that music in the 21st century should not lose its soul or its purpose. It should not become a mere commodity or a trivial entertainment. It should remain a noble art or a sacred service. It should serve as a source of inspiration or consolation for humanity. It should speak to the best or the worst in humanity. It should express the joys or the sorrows of humanity. It should celebrate or challenge humanity.
A controversial article in Vox argued that wealthy white men embraced Beethoven and turned his symphony into a symbol of their superiority and importance. For others, women, LGBTQ people, people of color, Beethoven's symphony is predominantly a reminder of classical music's history of exclusion and elitism. An article in the New Yorker says that an article by Philip Ewell begins with the sentence, "Music theory is white," and goes on to argue that the whiteness of the discipline is manifest not only in the lack of diversity of its membership, but also in the deep-seated ideology of white supremacy, one that insidiously affects how music is analysed and taught. What is your feeling about these opinions?
I am saddened and disturbed by these opinions. I do not agree with them at all. I think that they are based on a misunderstanding and a misrepresentation of my music and of music theory. I did not compose my music for wealthy white men, nor did I intend it to be a symbol of their superiority and importance. I composed my music for everyone, regardless of their gender, sexuality, race, or class. I intended it to be a symbol of universal human values and ideals, such as freedom, equality, brotherhood, joy and love. I was inspired by the Enlightenment philosophy and the French Revolution, which advocated for these principles. I was also influenced by the Romantic movement, which celebrated the individuality and diversity of human expression and emotion. I do not think that music theory is white, nor do I think that it has a deep-seated ideology of white supremacy. I think that music theory is a tool and a language that can help us understand and appreciate music better. I think that it has a rich and diverse history that spans across different cultures and traditions. I think that it is open and adaptable to new ideas and perspectives that can enrich its scope and relevance. I respect and admire the music of other cultures and traditions. I have studied and incorporated some of their elements and influences into my own music. For example, I have used Turkish rhythms and melodies in some of my works, such as the finale of my 9th Symphony and the Turkish March in the Ruins of Athens. I have also used folk tunes and dances from various countries, such as Scotland, Ireland, Hungary, Poland and Russia. I believe that music is a universal language that can speak to everyone, regardless of their background, culture, or taste. I believe that music is a powerful force that can unite us and uplift us. I believe that music is a divine art that can transcend time and space. I hope that people will not judge my music or music theory based on their prejudices or biases. I hope that they will listen to my music or study music theory with an open mind and an open heart. I hope that they will find something in my music or in music theory that resonates with them or inspires them.
How do you feel about the reception and impact of your music over the centuries? And what are your thoughts on the enduring popularity of your work? How do you feel about the way musicians now perform and interpret your music? Do you have advice in particular for pianists who play your music?
I am very grateful and humbled by the reception and impact of my music over the centuries. I am honored and delighted that my music has been appreciated and admired by many people from different backgrounds, cultures, and generations. I am amazed and moved that my music has inspired and influenced many other musicians and composers. I am happy and proud that my music has endured and transcended the test of time. I have no objection to the way musicians now perform and interpret my music. I respect their artistic freedom and individuality. I understand that music is a living and evolving art form, and that different performers can bring out different aspects and meanings of the same piece. I appreciate the diversity and variety of the musical expressions and experiences that they can create. I do have some advice for pianists who play my music, based on my own experience and intention as a composer and a performer. Here are some of them. Play with passion and emotion. My music is not just a collection of notes and symbols on a page. It is an expression of my soul, my thoughts, my feelings, my dreams. It is a reflection of my joys and sorrows, my triumphs and despairs. It is a communication with the listener and with God. Do not play it mechanically or coldly. Play it with your heart and your spirit. Play with clarity and precision. My music is not just a random or chaotic arrangement of sounds. It is a product of my logic, my reason, my imagination. It is a manifestation of my skill, my craft, my innovation. It is a structure with form and coherence. Do not play it sloppily or carelessly. Play it with your mind and your technique. Play with contrast and balance. My music is not just a monotone or uniform expression. It is a combination of different elements and dimensions. It is a contrast of light and dark, loud and soft, fast and slow, simple and complex, calm and stormy. It is a balance of melody and harmony, rhythm and meter, theme and variation, tension and resolution. Do not play it blandly or rigidly. Play it with your ear and your taste. Play with respect and originality. My music is not just a personal or isolated creation. It is a part of a musical tradition and culture. It is a respect for the past masters and influences that shaped my musical vision. It is an originality that broke new grounds and explored new possibilities in music. Do not play it blindly or dogmatically. Play it with your knowledge and your creativity. This is some of the advice that I have for pianists who play my music. I hope that they will find them useful and helpful in their musical journey.
There has been a great deal of interest and controversy over the identity of the immortal beloved that you were corresponding with in 1812. Would you care to tell us who was your immortal beloved? Also, we know you had a very challenging life in many ways. Would you share with us your joys and disappointments in romance and friendships?
Ah, the immortal beloved. That is a question that has haunted me for many years. I have loved many women in my life, but none of them could fully understand me or share my passion for music. The immortal beloved was different. She was the only one who could touch my soul and inspire me to create the most sublime works of art. She was the muse of my late quartets, my Missa Solemnis, my Ninth Symphony. She was the reason I lived and suffered. But who was she? That is a secret that I have kept in my heart until now. I will tell you, but you must promise not to reveal it to anyone else. It is a matter of honor and respect. Do you promise?
Well, if I can remind you that you're being interviewed for YouTube and a podcast, so it is completely up to you if you wish to share that with us.
I see. Well, I suppose it does not matter anymore. I have been dead for almost 2 centuries, and she has been dead for even longer. What harm can it do to reveal her name now? Perhaps it will even bring some peace to my restless spirit. Her name was Antoni Brentano. She was the wife of a wealthy merchant and patron of the arts in Vienna. He met her in 1810, when she was 29 and I was 40. She was beautiful, intelligent, charming, and musical. She had a fine ear and a good voice. She played the piano and sang my songs with grace and feeling. She admired my music and understood my genius. She was everything I ever wanted in a woman. But she was married, and I was not. She had 4 children, and I had none. She belonged to a different social class, and I was an outsider. She was faithful to her husband, and I was too proud to be a lover. We could never be together, except in our letters and our dreams. We corresponded for 2 years, from 1810 to 1812. We poured out our hearts and souls to each other. We shared our joys and sorrows, our hopes and fears, our thoughts and feelings. We expressed our love in the most tender and passionate words. We called each other my angel, my everything, my immortal beloved. But we could never meet in person, except for a few brief encounters. We could never kiss or embrace, except in our imagination. We could never make love, except in our music. In July 1812, I wrote her the most famous letter of my life. It was the last letter I ever wrote to her. It was the letter that you have read and wondered about. It was the letter that began with my angel, my all, my very self, and ended with ever thine. Ever mine. Ever ours. I wrote it in Teplitz, where I had gone to take the waters for my health. I had hoped to see her there, but she did not come. She had gone to Prague with her husband and children. She had chosen her duty over her love. I was heartbroken. Felt betrayed and abandoned. Cursed fate and destiny for separating us. Wished could die and join her in heaven. But I did not die. I lived on for another 15 years. He composed some of the greatest music of all time. But I never saw her again. I never wrote to her again. I never loved anyone else again. She was my immortal beloved.
So, wow, what an experience. The replies from our AI-generated Beethoven seemed really authentic, as if he really was answering our questions. I couldn't help but chuckle when Beethoven mentioned wanting to work with Lang Lang. Of all the musicians, Lang Lang, wow, that's quite a choice. But perhaps it's Lang Lang's visual displays of passion that resonates with Beethoven, who famously said, to play a wrong note is insignificant, to play without passion is inexcusable. So, if you're interested in exploring racial politics and classical music, we highly recommend checking out a YouTube video by Adam Neely and a provocative blog post by academic Philip Ewell titled, Beethoven was an above-average composer, let's leave it at that. These topics are especially relevant in light of the recent film Tar, starring Cate Blanchett. And I think it's because I've seen that film recently, which is why that question kind of came up that I wanted to ask Beethoven. So if you've seen that scene with the student who refuses to listen to music written by old white cis men, you'll know what we're talking about. Links will be in the podcast show notes and YouTube description. So we'd love to hear from you if you're interested in more interviews like this one, or if you have any questions for other composers. Please do give comments with your suggestions. And as always, your support is really appreciated. If you enjoyed this video or this podcast, depending on which you're enjoying right now, please do like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel and Heart of the Piano podcast. Thank you very much for joining Beethoven and me today. And see you the next time. Happy practicing. Goodbye.